Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of Stones and Iron. In part 2, Liz shows her method of including stones with ironwork and how to keep them in place using epoxy and welding, and how to instantly add a rust patina. I show how I drill sandstone dry and wet drill marble and mounting forged iron into them. The video is getting a bit long, so I had to make part 3, which will be copper tubing set in iron holding a small stone in place. This method was demonstrated at the 2014 Havana conference by Brett Moten. I'd always wanted to make it, but never had a good theme to use for it, but I got the flower idea from Kathy in part 1.
Talk about creating a guardian and doing the placement of the rock or the head of the piece. This is Ziggy, he's a completed piece, and on this application this has more steel. Today we're going to, well there's the design part of it, and then there's just fitting the rock, which are two different things. So I guess...
So maybe I'll just ask, like when you're starting, are you starting with the vision of the guardian and then locating a rock that will go with it, or does the rock kind of?
So I usually start with the rock.
Okay.
And then
you start thinking how
Or,
what will go around.
Yeah.
How it'll look good. Okay. Okay.
Um,
And so somewhat the shape of the rock, like for that one, because it's got, Ziggy's head's got so many fracture sort of things, and so that would lend itself to more a steel around it and holding it in
right,
place.
to help hold it in place.
Okay.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah. Okay, and so then the one you're going to show us, so in general, there's similarity to the technique in terms of how you're going to work the rock to get it to fit, how you're ultimately going to attach it, but the design around it is going to be different for each piece,
Yes.
and you just have to
Work
with your rock.
each piece
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
This has, I typically just use scrap when I'm working on building the setting for the rock. It's just scrap pieces, and everybody's different in how they want to do it. On this one here, I think this is going to be some kind of warrior princess, because that's what
nice.
it looks like to me. Now, the rock that I have for this piece, this came out of a mine in Bisbee.
I have one just like it.
You do. It looks like to me that it's chrysocolla and maybe azurite.
Yeah, could be. It
See,
could be
that's-
anything else too.
Well, it could be, because it's not a solid piece of chrysocolla, does it?
No, not
Yeah,
quite. But
heavy and
almost.
green.
Yeah,
But it's still an attractive rock.
way
my
back.
opinion.
Yeah, way
Yes.
back.
So here, I've got the head set up here. I've played with this a little bit to see where I'd like to have it go. And it kind of sits right underneath this metal piece on top, which makes it a good snug fit. I like to be able to have the rock kind of sit on the piece by itself, and that helps to keep it in place. So here there's, I don't know how well you can see it, but down at the bottom here, we've got a little bit of unevenness. So I am going to take the diamond blade and even this out a little bit more on the bottom. This is dusty. So any place that you're going to use this diamond blade, it's going to take the, you're going to notice that it's going to take any of the nice part of the rock away. So typically you don't want to just go cutting the rock apart, because then you lose the beauty of the rock. I also will use clear coat. Clear guard. This is part of the Sculpt Nouveau product, but it helps to give like a wet look to the rock and give it a little more shine. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And it's sitting pretty steady all on its own, that's how I like to get it in there. So let's flip around to the back. And we've got some space under there, but that shouldn't be too big of a problem. So for the setting part, I've got several pieces already cut out. And I'm going to check the placement. And this looks pretty good. All right, the idea here is to build a setting to hold the rock in place along with a little JB weld to put on the bottom section. This little setting will help to hide the JB weld and make it more aesthetically pleasing. What I really like to do is just spot weld and not put the helmet on, but
This is going on YouTube, so
somebody is going to report me to do that.
OSHA's knocking on your door.
I just suck at this.
Work better when they're ready. I don't like to weld too much too close to it. If it's not depending on how stable the rock is, it could heat it up too much and it could crack it, right? Mm-hmm. Hebrews must be nice. Let's take this.
Is this the new one?
There's a little piece that hangs off on the back, so I'm going to weld this on. And this I'm going to take the block out. that just closes the gap up. Okay, so now that looks pretty good to me. Earmuffs.
Uh-huh.
It's gonna be loud. Got a little gap in here between the plate that I welded to the bottom and these side pieces, but I'm okay with it. I don't, everybody's different on how they want to do stuff, but I'm okay with that. The idea here is to make sure that there's enough to keep the JB weld stick in the bottom, but it's pretty, have you used this before? Well, aha,
Aha.
there it is. Okay, so, all right, so I like that fit, that's good. I think what I'll do is use the steel stick and set the rock in, and then I'm still gonna come back and probably put something small, I don't know, maybe a couple of pieces of this 1/2 inch, just to hold it on these two sides. And that just, every once in a while stuff does fall over, at least it kind of keeps it in check. I think here, even this is on Ziggy, we've got this piece here that helps to hold them in if he were to fall over. So let's,
Oopsie.
It's probably going up.
Okay.
yeah, I like using this. It's not as gooey as some other stuff. Even liquid nails can be good. It depends on your application. But this seems to work really well because it's not like a super glue. And it's a 2-part, so that's why I'm mashing it up. And I wear gloves because I'm a girl.
When I go out dancing tonight, I want
My hands to look good. Oh yeah.
my alternate role as a hand model.
Well, it dries them out. Okay, it's like it kills. Now, hopefully, this will be enough. It's almost there. We might need a little bit more. You get a few minutes before it starts to get really hard. So that's where I want this. I'm stuffing it in there. I want to make sure I get some underneath the rock as well. Okay. Alright, so I got a spot over here, and I'm going to fill that in. I'm going to do a little bit more. And I don't know how well you can see that, but I'm going to open this packaging. Which actually, while I'm doing this, these copper pieces, the patina on them, I took a workshop at Grizzly Ironworks, and it was a copper workshop. And I've been having pretty good luck with what you do on the copper is very light coats of the clear coat. Once you get your patina on, do like 6 very light coats of the clear coat, and then do light coats of wax. And it's been holding up pretty good.
And is the wax to bring out the color more, or is it another layer of protection?
Just protection.
Okay.
Because you still lose some of the color when it just happens. But it's been holding up in Phoenix heat. That's what.
And you're just using like a paste wax, like Johnson
Yeah.
paste wax?
I'm making a bit of a mess. But I like it. So I'm just filling in around where the metal setting is to come up and be close to the rock. And it dries a light gray. I do think what I'm going to do is come back and use a piece of this or some other scrap to put a curved piece on this side. And then that'll hide the JV weld. It's not that it looks terrible, it's just that I prefer not to see it so much. So then that, it gives it another element. So we'll let this sit for a few more minutes, see if it'll harden up. And then I've already, again, on the copper, I've done this as well. I've already penciled it in, and I've patinaed the copper and then riveted it to the metal plate, and then I'll weld that onto the front, which I feel there's complementary colors to the copper and then in the rock, because I like copper and I like rocks.
And so you have your copper all finished before you attach it to your guardian piece? Oh,
Yes.
it's all got
Yes,
the-
so this has already been, I did the patina, I put on the clear coat, and then I put on several coats of wax. And I'll probably put on a couple of more, just to be sure. I'm testing. It's still, it is sticking. I mean, you can see back here. It looks pretty good. It's starting to get hard. At this point it is hard. Rock's not falling out. So even without putting any more metal around it, you've got a pretty good foundation set here. And the rock is in there. Again, it's the JB Weld went on the sides and also underneath the rock.
Like just, like a third of it, a quarter of it, an eighth of it, just like, just a little catching the corner kinda, or?
So there's a good bit of it on the sides, but underneath it, I had it go like halfway out.
Oh, okay.
So it depends on the shape of your rock too and how it's held in. Because this has something over the top supporting it here, I'm good with that. This piece would be different because you don't have anything on the top. So you need a little bit more on the sides, and underneath I think I put a heavier bed underneath it. But yeah, so that's good. Do that. All right, so we have to come up with we might need an inch, something a little thicker. Maybe not. Oh, that might work. That might actually do it. So then it becomes part of the design. And again, it makes it a little more aesthetically pleasing than to see where the JB Weld starts and ends. But right now, that rock is pretty well in there. It's not going to come out too easy. Should we try?
Mommy.
All right, so there's
I
your rock.
think it's sleeping dogs, so.
I don't know, I like that rock though.
Yeah, oh yeah.
It is a nice one. Okay, so that's what I've got for today.
Okay. Good. And so I guess he cut this little part out. So I guess if you can, so mostly like, I guess two things, like, so mostly this is like the way you're using rocks, so, okay. And, I'm just for kind of saying and concluding. And for you, I know, like, you kind of, like the Gem and Mineral Show and, things for finding your rocks, is that kind of, you just sort of prowl the different shows and just find something you think is just cool, that you like the shape.
Typically it's raw rock. If I go, do like the Gem and Mineral Show. By the way, it's in April this year.
Yeah.
It's been pushed out. But we have friends who, they actually have a place down in Bisbee, and they just gave us a couple buckets full of rocks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's, I don't know them all, but there's some nice ones. So yeah, it depends. I mean, around here you can get quartz. There's some stuff in the area. Quartz isn't great, I think, because the metal, it's not a bad rock, but as far as this rock has color in it, and I think that it makes it more attractive when it has some color, and especially with the copper, then it gives the metal a little more life, the steel a little more life. Whereas quartz is, then you just got the black or the rust and white, which is okay, but a little more color is always fun.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the, at least what I see is part of the reason for having it is that it expands your vocabulary, I guess, so yeah, so you add color, you add texture, you add shape, it just, and from the sounds of, I guess, so did you start thinking of the Guardians and then just conceiving of this is how I would construct it, or or did it just organically evolve that you're looking at this rock going, man, that looks like a head?
I think I started the Guardians, and I would use copper, patina copper, make a ring, and I still, I've done a few of those. I have incorporated some flagstone into them, into smaller pieces, and then I made larger pieces, and then it seemed like, it's that human form that's kind of a tribal human form, and it seems like, well, that's got to be the head. The rock's got to be the head. So then it's like, started looking at rocks. So
Yeah.
I've done a little bit of both, but I do like rocks a lot.
Yeah. Oh no, I think that was kind of what I did. I go to the Gem and Mill show with my dad or Ken, and I just, loved rocks. And then I said, wouldn't it be nice to be able to use rocks?
Yes.
So then you start thinking of, what
How
can
to
I,
incorporate
how
them.
to, or what does that jiggle in my imagination? So it seems to me you can go at it two ways. You could have the larger vision of your piece, and then you go looking for the parts that make it, or you dream of your rock.
How and where am I going to put it, right?
Yes, exactly.
But I like the idea too of the Guardian. Everybody wants to have something to help them feel safe today, tomorrow, whenever. So it's kind of a cool idea and concept. And then to incorporate the color in the rock, and it's very earthy.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a complete piece, so it's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
I still, oh, that's better. Let's see. Okay, so I can see that pretty well. Pull up one. Okay, get it over. Okay.
Oh, we've been filming this whole time. Oh, you guys have been left it on. It's been filming this whole time. Okay.
I am going to put the uric acid on the steel. And just slop it on there. I got my handy dandy torch.
Boy, it takes a while, huh?
Trying to keep it on the spots. And not get it on the copper. But if you keep applying more peroxide, it is getting darker.
Okay.
Hey, that's not too bad. It's a
Cool.
good start.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Liz. Welcome. You need to cut. Okay, maybe I should have done some David stuff. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
So what were you trying to say for how, just for fitting it in or?
Yeah, what do I want to say about this? Is
I like using Arizona Sierra banded sandstone. It provides a vibrant pattern of color and texture in layers ranging from a pale tan to red with layers of iron oxide and is quarried in Arizona. After heat treating, it seems to come alive. So here's some of the lighter colors over here. You can see it gradually get darker and darker, and these red iron oxide streaks are what really brings it out, and they are much harder than the sandstone portion. Heat treating really changes this color and makes it just vibrant. I drilled the holes to mount these roses using a carbide tip drill bit and just my cordless drill. I don't use a hammer drill on this soft stone because it will crack. I drill a little bit oversized, so this here is a little over 1/4 inch, so I think these were drilled with a 3/8 drill bit. It's really soft, it drills easy. It may wander a bit depending on which layer of iron oxide you're going through, but once you get started it's pretty straight. I do put a little piece of tape to mark the depth that I want to drill. I don't drill all the way through, just to the level that I want to set the item. I use a 2-part epoxy. This I happened to get at Home Depot. There's hardware stores or home centers. Michael's probably carries it also. I found these mixing cups online, and the sticks I think I got at Michael's. So I'll put equal amounts in this little cup, mix it up with a stick, and then apply it. First I'll mask off with painter's tape the holes to make clean up easier. I like to put a clear coat on the stone to protect it. For indoor, this clear guard works really well. It does soak in really fast, so it gives it a little bit of protection, but it leaves the stone look. If I'm doing an outdoor project, I recommend using the method that David Breidenbaugh uses with automotive clear coat, or you can buy other Sculpt Nouveau products made for outdoors that are much thicker, and that's the epoxy that comes in a spray can, and that's one-time use, or you mix it and put it in a sprayer. And I'll show you the table that I use the automotive clear coat on. It's much thicker, it doesn't soak in nearly as much, and it will build up a protective coating. If you put this outdoors, it does soak up water, and if it's going to freeze, it can pop off some of these layers, especially the way this one is done with the smaller layers here on the top. This piece actually lost a little corner right here due to rain, and then it froze overnight, and it popped that off. This tabletop I finished with automotive clear coat, and I just brushed it on, and it has a glossy finish, and it's protective, so you can put anything on it and it's not going to damage the stone. I did have to use the right hardener. Depending on the time of year that you apply it, the paint store will sell you different hardeners, so make sure you get the right hardener to go with the resin. And so in the summertime, it's going to be allow you longer drying time because of the heat, and then less in the winter and the cooler months. So the way I attached this, I used a metal plate. So let's go underneath and take a look at that. Looking underneath the table, you can see the metal plate that I cut out
kind of follows the contour of the table. And I don't bolt into the stone. I use that same 2-part epoxy and bond it to the plate. And I've cut some extra holes to give it a little bit more surface area to grip to. And then prior to epoxying it, I've welded another plate that I can bolt the top to. And this stand happens to be a tree trunk with roots. And the oak leaf that's on top, I've welded to that plate also, so it's not attached to the stone itself. The patterns in the sandstone almost look like tree rings, which is what gave me the idea for the tree trunk legs. So cutting the stone is pretty simple. Cut-off wheel works great in an angle grinder. It makes a lot of mess, and dust, so make sure you wear a respirator. I went for the jagged edge on this one, the broken edge. So most of it was that texture already, and then I just used a chipping hammer and hammered on it to finish, to give it the rest of it the same look. This is another sculpture piece that I set in sandstone. Funny story about the sculpture. I came up with this design to compete in a ABBA forging competition. A previous competition I was in, I was up against one of my instructors, another very experienced smith who's an instructor, and one other fairly new blacksmith. And my piece, I thought, was really pathetic. So in order to compete, I thought I needed to come up with a really cool design. So I came up with this design, I practiced it, and at the next competition, there were no competitors except for myself and one other who was brand new, never done any blacksmithing. So it took the wind out of my sails. But it was a cool piece, so I kept it. The other stone medium I've worked in is marble. This marble came from Marble, Colorado. The mine there is now privately owned by an Italian company, and there's no tours of it. But there are some vendors in town where you can pick up pieces. Interestingly, one of the pieces, my favorite to work with, had a bunch of quarry half holes in it where they drilled the rock and then split it along that line of holes. And it left the face with kind of a half hole, half diameter of a hole. And I wondered, what am I going to do with that? Well, I finally figured out that I wanted those in all my pieces because that's a perfect groove to put in a piece of round stock that's part of a plant stem. And then I tried to figure out how to put that in all my other pieces, and I came up with a core drill. So I found some diamond coated core bits that this one's 3/4, this one's 1 inch, that drill through this really nicely. I did have to make an adapter for the end so I could put this into my cordless drill, and I just drill it with that, and it works great. Drilling the marble dry doesn't work. It seems to heat up and then the drill just doesn't do anything. Whether drilling a straight hole with a carbide bit, regular bit, or one of these core bits. So I started drilling that wet, and let's go out and look at my setup for wet drilling marble. Here's some forged pieces I've done previously that I thought I'd try to include on this stone. These leaves here I think are too big for this piece for what I'm planning. So focus on this smaller leaf and this organic feature here. I'll take a photo of each side of the stone and then I'll print it out close to full size as I can get it, and then I'll draw on that picture, kind of brainstorm and figure out what I want to put in there. Now it helps me plan out the project. Now I may not end up using all of those, but it gives me a starting point. And I think I'll start with the back side, which I'm saying is this is the back. And we'll put in this piece, and we'll drill a hole here at the base, and then two smaller holes up here. Maybe one is sufficient for a metal peg that I'll weld onto this back side here to help hold that into the stone. And on the side over here, I think that's this side, maybe this side, no, right there. Got another vine coming up here and a couple of small leaves off of that. May put some more leaves in here, but may leave those as smooth vines also. I'll see what it looks like as that progresses. And then on the other side, coming down here, actually this side, thought I'd add a little figure. As I was brainstorming this and thinking about this, this also looked like a peak of a mountain, a snow-capped mountain that a mountain climber might climb up. And so I'm going to see if I can't put a little climbing rope in there with a little mountain climber on the side also, just to add some fun to it. So the first hole we'll get marked out will be back here, probably right in here and somewhere in here. There's not that much thickness, so I'm going to keep it kind of down this way to mount this here organic feature. So let's go drill some rock. This is my wet drill setup. I've got a concrete mixing tub, but anything that holds water will work, even a bucket if it's large enough. And there's a fish pump that actually pumps the water. It's just a fish tank pump. And then I've got a stand set up to hold that, so I have a constant feed of water onto whatever I'm drilling. And I need enough water in here for the pump. I don't have to submerge the stone. You want to make sure you have the water flow directly on the point that you're going to drill. My wet drill setup is outside, and I waited for it to warm up this morning, and it did, but now it's getting cold again, so we're going to hurry up and do this. So I'm holding the rock we're going to drill. And we've got our two marks on it, here and here, where we want to drill. And it looks like about 3/4 inches will get us about halfway on this top one. And then we even go an inch or more deep on the bottom one. So I'm going to put a piece of tape on my drill bit to mark that so I don't drill too far. So first one is going to be 3/4. So drill to that depth on the top one, and then drill a little bit further on the bottom one. Okay, we have water. I'm going to aim that right on the spot where I'm going to drill. better. Okay, take two. Okay, we're back, and got the corded drill. Just need to be careful not to drop the drill in the water. Okay, that's it for the first hole. Probably noticed me angling the drill, the bit tends to wander in that marble, so I was trying to correct for that. So now I'll drill the second hole and we'll go a little bit deeper, since the base is thicker. Okay, let's do it for that one. Wash out all the dust from the holes. There they are. The holes I had marked in the marble drifted a little bit when we were drilling. So I'm just going to remark where we want to weld on our little tabs that will get epoxied into the stone. So we're going to use these marks, and let's see which. Let's do one. We're going that way. So these are right. So we'll cut some round stock and get that welded on, and this time I'll try to remember to turn on the camera for the weld. Oh, I almost forgot to turn on the camera. I got one pin welded on and getting ready to weld on the second one. The marks, I wire brushed it, get a good clean metal, and then did the same on the pins, just on the belt sander, and just tacking these in place. All right, we'll see if it fits. So I've just taken the welds down with a flat disc, and then I'll get a burr grinder and kind of put some lines in here just to blend that in with the rest of this texturing. Okay, these are ground down and blended in, ready to epoxy in. We need to cut this off and also taper this down to make it look like the root is growing out of the rock. Sometimes I use that as the peg to go into the stone or the rock, but not in this case. It's kind of small. Cut this here, and then this will get tapered down this way. So this is just a three-sided taper. Rounding it up, making it all smooth down on the bottom. That looks like it's growing out of the rock. So I just finished fitting this piece. It's ready to epoxy in. I'll do that at the end. I think I'll work on the side on this piece next. I'll get some probably 3/8 or 5/16 round. Start tapering that, and I've got one leaf I'll finish off and make another leaf, and we'll weld those on. When you're working with marble, it helps to keep your hands clean as possible, because every time you touch it, you're going to get some dirt on it, and then you have to clean it. So, and unless you're going for that look. So I'm trying to keep my hands clean and contaminate as low as possible. Now for this next piece, which is going to be growing out of this bottom crack or broken piece, face, and grinding up this way, I'm just going to mostly bend this cold, starting at the tip, and just fit it to the rock, and then find out where that end needs to, the bottom needs to end up, and then I'll know the length. So this is going to wind up here, kind of come over, curl around here, and maybe start popping over this tip, keeping in mind that I'm going to have a piece on the back, so I don't want to crowd it and come over this way. I could probably come over the side and maybe over this little crack and end up here somewhere. So I'll start bending that and see what it looks like. So right here's where I want to make the bend, and I want to make it this way, so I've got this line to indicate that, to tell me. Because as soon as I put it down or look away, I'm not going to remember where that is. So I may have to heat this up to get a sharp enough bend. I'm not going to be able to do that cold, so we'll get out the torch and spot heat it. I did quench after the heat so I don't damage the rock when I bring it up to it. Put another bend here. I want it to go opposite of that, so let's see how well I can transfer that mark. So I've got the rock positioned for drilling, and the way it wants to lay naturally just happens to be where this face is straight up. So with my piece in there, and that parallel to that edge, this edge here, I'm drilling kind of slightly off perpendicular to this angle. So we're going to drill to the tape mark right in the middle, and didn't expect that to happen. I have to hold that. I'm just going easy to get it hole started. Because I want to wander too much. That's plenty deep. I'm going to call it that. Yeah, it's pretty good. You have to do some bending right here. Maybe straighten that out and make that fit. Okay, let's go back inside. So put a bend, partial bend right at that line, and we'll start fitting this in, final fit to this piece of marble.
I'm gonna get gloves to hold this now. The pin wasn't quite as long. Let's see how this fits. Can you get in there? Take a little bend out of that. Oh, we gotta cut this off too. So we're done.
In about 1.25 inches. So 1.25 inches is right here. Plus I'm going to cut a little bit more so I have epoxy at the very end to help hold it and not the bare steel. With that trimmed to length, I'll try this fit up again. And need to bend this angle a little bit sharper. Okay, that's got that one. Now there's a couple of leaves that are supposed to come off of here from the picture. So one down here, and like another coming off over here to go over, wrap around this face. So let's get those stuck on. Now for my other leaf. There we go. Need to finish forging that, put a few veins in it, and I'll stick that one coming up right over here. Probably wrap around the front there, something like that. This segment right here is what I'll work on next. We got steel heating up in the forge. It's 5/16 round. And I'll draw this taper and then shape this and drill a hole roughly there and get that fitted. Well, that's close, and we'll cool it off and then put it up on the rock and see where we need to tweak it. So this is formed to the rough shape that of the wire that I laid over the rock to get the basic shape, and now we'll lay this piece over the rock and see where we need to make adjustments. I have drilled another hole and cut this little piece of stock, grounded the end, and that's going to get epoxy in the hole. I've finished forming the piece that's growing on the rock, and I'm getting ready to weld these together. I've got the piece taped down, and this I can just hold with the finger, and I can just tack that, get it in place, and then I'll pull it out and finish welding it. I'm going to cover it up with this welding blanket. There's a hole in it already about that size, and that'll help protect the rock. I got the ground clamp over here. I'm going to cover this up and see what happens. Started melting that tape already. It's a little bit stinky. We have a nice clean rock. Alright. So we can finish welding that up, and we'll do a little bit of grinding and shaping. So I'm looking to get enough fill in the weld that it looks like it grew out naturally. I think that should do it. It can grind that down, make that work. Then I get that epoxy to stay in place. Okay. We got this face covered. We got this one covered. We got this done. And we do need to weld on some leaves to this piece. So we'll clean these up and get them ready to weld. I got this last leaf that I'm going to weld on, all positioned on the piece of stone, piece of marble. And I drew around it with a soapstone. And then I positioned it the best I could, clamped it in place, and I'm going to tack it in and then check it. And I'll finish welding it up, and we'll do any final tweaks, just bending if needed. So we've done welding our leaves on. I did the final grinding, wire brushed all the pieces, and we're going to color it now. I'm going to use Stealth Green. It's a dioxide patina from Sculpt Nouveau, and it gives a really dark, almost blackish, kind of really cool color. Got another green I might play around with, maybe put some highlights on, and that's another dioxide patina. Supposed to heat the metal up to 200 degrees to apply this stuff. It just works better that way, but you can do it cold for a different effect. I'm just going to brush it on. I like to write the name of what I'm using the brush for on here, and then I'll reuse that brush and rinse it out, but then I don't have to worry about mixing patinas and chemistries of different finishes. So we've done welding our leaves on. I did the final grinding, wire brushed all the pieces, and we're going to color it now. I'm going to use Stealth Green. It's a dioxide patina from Sculpt Nouveau, and it gives a really dark, almost blackish, kind of really cool color. Got another green I might play around with, maybe put some highlights on, and that's another dioxide patina. It's supposed to heat the metal up to 200 degrees to apply this stuff. It just works better that way, but you can do it cold for a different effect. I'm just going to brush it on. I like to write the name of what I'm using the brush for on here, and then I'll reuse that brush and rinse it out, but then I don't have to worry about mixing patinas and chemistries of different finishes. This is my patina torch. It's really just a weed torch, and I took off the full blast trigger handle down here so I don't burn the shop down. And I'll throw a 3-foot flame out of here if you're not careful. That's about all you need. You have more blue flame than yellow. And then just start warming these pieces up. If you have a thermometer you can check the temperature with, that's great, but it's not necessary. Another way to tell when this is hot enough is the patina, when it's applied, it should steam off. It shouldn't sizzle and evaporate immediately, but it should gradually steam off and not sit there and cool. Now this patina I found, you have to keep it constantly stirred. That's steaming off a little too fast. Down here is about right. So my meter's probably lying to me. And you should wear a respirator for this. So I'll probably talk funny now. We'll heat up again. Now this looks pretty dark, but when we put a clear coat on it, it'll lighten up. I'm going to go for a little lighter green, especially on these tips, and maybe the leaves where it looks like smaller, and it looks like newer growth, whereas the older growth, this heavier stuff, will be darker. So we can take some Scotch Brite and lighten this up afterwards, and maybe use some of this other green patina, and just kind of experimenting. Should have fun with this. They're not even hot enough. Oh, this is one. One side was hot. I'm going to do a lighter green on this piece, and this green is, the stealth green is so dark that I'm going to take some of this green patina and put in a mixing cup and then drip in the stealth green until I get the color I want. And I'm trying to use minimal patina here to be a little thrifty with it. So I only mix what I think I'm going to use and try to make it last. So the high spots are getting wiped down with the Scotch-Brite pad, and I'll polish those a little and bring those out. I'm going to put the clear coat on these, and I'm going to use same thing that Kathy and David are using, and Liz, Sculptonville Clear Guard Satin. This doesn't yellow. It will hold up the outdoor a little bit, but it's not the best outdoor product. It's mostly, it's better for indoors. So we're going to use it on this project. Okay, when that dries, I'll flip it over and do the other side. It is time to give this rock a bath. I'm just going to use clear water and a scrub brush to start, just a bristle brush. There's a couple of stubborn spots. I'm just going to use some Fast Orange hand cleaner. Okay, we'll dry this off and epoxy in our quartz pieces. So our stone is all nice and clean. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I can see some light spots and dark spots. There's some light there, and that's because the marble is porous, and although not that much, it does still soak up water. So I'm going to let this dry out overnight. Probably put it in the house and keep it warm, and then we'll epoxy it, these pieces in tomorrow. I've got everything set up to epoxy in our first forging into the marble, and I'm going to start with the smaller pieces and then leave the big one for the end, because that will be harder to position. I want the hole upright so that nothing drips out while it's curing. So I've got it propped up here and the first piece inserted just to get a feel for it. I'll take that out and we'll fill it maybe halfway and then put the forging in the stem and see how that fills up the hole. So put some tape around here to kind of protect that. I did seal this one with clear guard. I used a matte finish. That's kind of the natural look of that broken stone, so I wanted to try to preserve that. Over here I've got the two-part epoxy ready to go. have a mixing cup, and it's got graduations on it so I can get equal parts in there, and then a couple of different mixing sticks. I also have a round one I'll get out to better facilitate filling that hole. So let's mix some up and see how we do. Since I didn't measure the volume of this hole beforehand, by filling it with water, and now that the rock is dry, I just measured the depth and the diameter, calculated that volume. I measured this diameter is 1/4 inch and using that same depth as the hole, and then subtracting those, and then figuring out what the height of that volume would be, that delta volume, at this whole diameter, and I get about 1/4 inch. So I'm going to start there and see how it goes. So we're going to mix equal portions of this 2-part epoxy. And now for the hardener. First one was the resin. And hopefully this isn't already hard. There it comes. Look in there. Okay, now I can mix this up. And I've got 5 minutes to mix this and get it in the hole and get it set up. And of course I forgot to tape off my hole, so I'm going to have to scramble to do that. I always know that this is working well if it smells like dead fish. And it does. Alright, tape. There you go. We got Gorilla tape here, that'll work. Tough stuff. So I'm just trying to get as close as I can get to a circle shape around the hole to keep the epoxy from spilling over and making for more cleanup later. Okay, so with this rounded stick, see if we can get that in there. And how I know when it's 1/4 inch deep. So try to gauge that. Wipe that around the inside of the hole. Alright, let's try this again. And that looks not So we'll come back in about 5 minutes minus a few. So it's been a little more than 5 minutes, maybe like 45, and this is pretty hard. It's all dried up. Let's get this tape off of here. Nice fit. Okay, now on to the next piece. Now that one is going. My stick is still tacky, and if I pull out this plug, it still seems to have some uncured aspect to it. Cut. Well, this epoxy appeared to cure, but it's still kind of sticky and pliable. I think it will hold, but it's kind of old, so I decided to replace it. But what's on the stick is still kind of tacky also, so it didn't cure completely. Might have been able to use additional hardener on the next batch, but I just went and got some new stuff. So this is just a different brand. So the leftover in my mixing cup is pretty hard. I'll make a dent in it, but it's solid, so we should be cured here. It's enough to set this upright. There's our marble piece. There's a little better view. With small forging pieces like this, it's difficult to put your touch mark on a piece like this. So sometimes I will just use a Sharpie and draw in my crossed matchsticks and put my name.